Hello and welcome to Macro Lens. So right now the economy looks stable. Growth is slowing, but we are not in a recession. Markets are calm and unemployment is low. It is at 4.2%. But here is the danger. We are in what is called the flat part of the curve. And history shows that this is the most fragile part of the economic cycle, where even a small shock can push everything over the edge and we fall into a recession. So think of the economy like a curve. In the upswing, growth has momentum. In the downturn, it's already collapsing. So what about the flat part? That is when the growth has stalled but hasn't turned negative yet. It feels safe, but it's actually the most dangerous part. Why? Because when you're at the stall speed, as they say in the aviation, it only takes one bad gust of wind to crash the plane. And this is where we are at right now. Let's look at history. In 2000, the dot-com bubble peaked. Everything looked fine, but the growth had slowed, but it didn't look like a crisis. And then in 2001, everything collapsed. The bubble burst. In 2007, housing slowed, but the GDP looked still okay. Policymakers thought subprime was contained, but within months, the whole financial system collapsed. And in 2019, also economy looked good. A soft landing was consensus. But then COVID hit and plateau turned into a free fall. Now let's compare to today. Growth momentum has faded. The yield curve is getting uninverted. That's really critical. Credit is tightening and stock valuations, well, they are very stretched, just like in 2000. So today we have a situation similar to two times in history, 2000 and 2007, where we have a strong tightening, we have a credit stress and high valuations. So, and one big missing piece, a trigger. And this brings us to today's big risk. And you all know what it is. It is the new tariff war, of course. Trade wars don't hit all at once. They creep in. At first, companies stockpile and adjust their supply chains, but then the costs filter through into prices, margins shrink, and global demand softens. So what is the real danger here? Of course, the real danger is inflation. Tariffs are inflationary, and that forces central banks to stay tighter for longer, exactly when the economy needs relief. Of course, if central banks are not tighter for longer and start money printing, then you get enormous inflation due to tariffs. So history shows how dangerous this can be, because the largest tariffs were introduced in 1930. They were called Smoot-Hawley, and they turned a recession in 1930 into a large depression that lasted for 3 years. It was the largest depression that we know. So example number 2 is the tariffs war in 1918 between US and China. It slowed down the global manufacturing and it did set up the fragility we saw in 2020. Of course, the money printers turned on and we saw enormous inflation. So here we are, the flat part of the curve. It feels stable. For many, this feels really stable. But history tells us that this is the most dangerous place to be at. And this time, the potential trigger might not be subprime mortgage or a pandemic like earlier. It could be tariffs, the debt stress, or geopolitical conflict. So if history does repeat, the flat plateau doesn't last long. It can last a couple of months. It either turns back up, where economy starts to grow, or it turns into a crisis. So right now, most of the indicators suggest that we are much closer to tipping down. So this is why it is extremely important to follow the unemployment data in the next few months. Because if it starts to go up, you all know what that means. If you want to understand these cycles better and see how I track them, please like and subscribe. Because the more people understand where we are in the cycle right now, the better prepared we all are. Thank you.